Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Japan, a long-awaited video. I know some of you have requested this, but I wasn't able to do it because I fell ill, unfortunately. But better late than never. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a few subjects about Japan. Namely, China has finally applied some sanctions on Japan because of what they did. I'm going to be talking about what they did and what they said. Not only the Japanese Prime Minister, but also Japanese lawmakers are also talking about Taiwan being a separate state and things like that. I'm also going to be talking about what Americans think of Japan, especially Trump, and why is he so silent. And I'm going to be also sharing some Twitter clips about Japan as well, which are quite funny. So before I start, don't forget to like and share. And also try and watch the video to the end because that really helps the algorithm. So without further ado, let's start the show. So first of all, this new Japanese prime minister, this female prime minister, I mean, she is an absolute embarrassment, guys. I mean, this is a video of her with Trump a few months ago, and I'm sure most of you have seen it. It's absolutely cringe. And from this moment that everyone's seen this video, they could tell that this woman doesn't know what she's doing. She's a complete amateur. She's a complete puppet. And she's doing everything she can to please the Americans, not to please the Japanese. I mean, look at her. She looks like a little schoolgirl in her celebrations. A little, look at her. Oh my God, this woman cannot control her emotions. I mean, do you see any other world leader acting like this? Even Ursula, in all her years of puppeteering and ass licking, I've never seen her do anything like that. This is utter sheer embarrassment by the Japanese Prime Minister. And I'm going to share with you another clip. I don't know if you guys have seen this clip. This clip is even more funny than the last one. So when Trump met the Japanese Prime Minister, they were walking towards the American flag and the Japanese flag. So when Trump walks past the American flag, he obviously salutes the American flag. But the Japanese Prime Minister asks Trump to basically bow at the Japanese flag. But instead of bowing, he just walks off. I mean, people don't really give Trump much credit. People say that Trump doesn't have much brains, but I know that he knows what he's doing here because he knows that America was the winner in World War II. They're the one, and the Japanese are the ones that surrendered. So why should he bow to the Japanese flag? And I'm sure that Trump knows what he's doing, and he just walks off. And the Japanese Prime Minister was just telling him, "Where are you going? Where are you going? You need to bow to the Japanese flag." And he didn't. I want to show you this clip. It's absolutely hilarious, guys. Watch this. And here he is, and he's saluting the American flag first, and then she look at her. She's asking him to basically bow to the Japanese flag, and he just walks off. And look at her face. She's just left there standing, and he's just walking off. He just left her right in the back. So you think that was hilarious, guys. And everything that Japan is doing. I mean, I think she expected Trump to give her more support. Unfortunately, the Japanese have been very frustrated with Trump because he's been absolutely silent with what the Japanese have been with the row they have against China. Trump has been completely silent about it. And this woman has completely destroyed the Japanese economy all in a few months. Even the last few, even the last dozens of prime ministers Japan had, they never had the guts or the spine to start attacking China and start bringing up the Taiwan question, start talking about Taiwan like it's a separate state, saying that they will go to war with China if China tries to reunify Taiwan. This is the language coming out of a school mistress, not somebody that's leading the country. And and Trump has been completely silent about it. Trump has been not been even saying anything. And she's obviously doing it to please Trump. I mean, you can tell by the way she's celebrating that she's doing it to please Trump. But It's absolutely embarrassment, guys. I mean, I've seen on Twitter that now you have Japanese, um, basically Japanese businesses who are openly asking for her to resign because Japanese businesses, she's basically destroyed it in a few months. You know, with all these sanctions that China's been putting on Japan, it's all because of her. It's all because of what she said and her actions. For those of you who don't remember what she said that she would go to war with China if China tries to reunify with Taiwan, and also she mentioned that Taiwan's separate, and all this nonsense she was talking about, and yeah, so China has finally decided to put some rare earth sanctions on Japan. And one thing Japan is very um, lacking is rare earths, right? I mean, Japan is an island, guys. They don't even have their own, you know, oil or gas. They have to import it from the rest of the world, and most of the stuff they import it from USA. And even rare earths, they have to import it mainly from China. And if you know Japan, you know that Japan is a very much a technological advanced countries, and they need a lot of rare earths for electronics. You know, they build a lot of electronics there. All the PS5s and Sony and all these other Japanese brands, they all need rare earths for all their goods and manufacture that they do, and they get most of their rare earths from China. And China is right next door to Japan. It's only like it's only a short distance away from the sea, so it's very cheap for Japan to get rare earths from China. And she's just ruined it with opening her big mouth. I mean, even the last few guys in Japan know that they have to be very careful when they deal with China because they have a lot of Japanese businesses in China, lots of car businesses, Toyota, Nissan, and Mitsubishi, many other cars that, sell in China. As soon as she opened her mouth, all these car businesses, even though they've not been doing very well in China, you know, you know, insulting China like that, it's not going to be very good business for Japanese businesses to thrive in China. Even if they can get past uh, the government, people are going to reject the Japanese products. Because people in China, they have pride. They're not going to buy something when the Japanese prime minister insults the Chinese or tries to kind of talk about going to war with China. You think an ordinary Chinese is going to go out and buy a Japanese brand after that? No way. They wouldn't, guys. So the Japanese businesses in China have been greatly affected. Tourism has been affected. There's not many Chinese going into Japan, and a lot of them have been getting refunds from China, but not getting it, not going into Japan. And this has affected Japan greatly because the Japanese, one of the reasons the Japanese have had a great economy over the years, and fastest growing economy in the world at one point in the 80s and 90s, they had great products that they were selling mainly in China. All their cars and electronic products was going into China and rest of Asia. This is why Japan was booming back in the 80s and 90s. And then South Korea started catching up to Japan, and South Korea started taking a lot of business from Japan. Then the island of Taiwan started taking a lot of semiconductor businesses from Japan. And then then you had the rise of China in the 80s and 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020. And that has destroyed most of the Japanese businesses that, basically had an open reign in the world, but not anymore. Chinese products have pretty much taken over. And the Japanese are not very happy about that, obviously. But still, China is their biggest market, for Japan, and they're neighbors after all. So if you're a neighbor, it's far more easier and cheaper for you to trade with your neighbor rather than trading with somebody 100 miles away, 200 miles away, because you have to pay for, obviously transport and logistics, supply chains, and things like that. So it's much easier to basically sell and do business with your neighbor. But if you're going to antagonize your neighbor, if you're going to insult your neighbor, then things are not going to work out too good for you. Yeah, so this prime minister has absolutely kind of destroyed the Japanese businesses only for a few days. But it's not just her; it's her whole team. And you've seen the articles such as this. Even Japanese lawmakers have started talking about the Taiwan issue as well, and they started getting involved. So things are not looking good, guys. And I gotta say that you know I think there was a I don't know if you guys know about this famous Taiwanese YouTuber. He's quite stocky built guy. He's got muscles and lots of tattoos. And recently he traveled to China, and he was basically, honey, he's a big streamer, YouTuber on in Taiwan, and he's been talking about how the youth should embrace reunification with China. The West is only humiliating Taiwan and the Taiwanese. And for national pride, the Taiwanese need to rejuvenate with mainland China and become a superpower alongside the rest of the Chinese. And he's been pushing that message out in Taiwan. And he's a major YouTuber. He's got millions of followers. And he said one thing which I completely agree with. He said, China will never go to war with Taiwan, because end of the day, the people are the same blood. Everyone, both sides of the sea. People are Chinese. They have the same. They eat the same food. They basically speak the same language. They have the same culture. So China and Taiwan, he said, will never go to war. However, if Japan gets involved, and if Japan starts putting troops in Taiwan or starts talking about having wars with China, if Japan starts putting missiles into Taiwan, then definitely China would go to war because they would see Japan as meddling with their policies. So this is the clip, guys, I wanted to show you. As you can see, this is the streamer. So he was a major separatist for years. I remember he was very anti-Chinese back in the day. However, he's changed. He's now more pro one China. He wants to join with the mainland. He believes that people in Taiwan and people in mainland are one people. It should be one country. So he's completely changed, and he's very much pro, joining the mainland. And this is his basically his speech. He said, "If Taiwan acts alone, there's an 80% chance that mainland China won't attack. If Taiwan allies with Japan, I guarantee they'll attack Japan without a shadow of the doubt." And I have to agree with him 100%, and I'm sure you guys will agree with him as well. My opinion, guys, if there is a country China goes to war with over the next ten years, I think it's going to be Japan. It's not going to be USA. It's not going to be Philippines. It's not going to be India. It's going to be Japan. And I'll tell you why. Because Japan has said that they will actively pursue nuclear weapons. There is no way that China will allow for that to happen. No way. China made a big mistake in history, guys. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure many of you have kind of followed Chinese history, and especially the Qing dynasty. The Qing dynasty basically made a big mistake. They were too closed as a nation and as people, and they completely ignored the industrial revolution that was going on in the West. So when Britain was becoming industrialized and everything was machinery, and they had advanced weapons and stuff, the Qing dynasty were too arrogant. Even though they were strong, they believed that there is no country on earth that can beat them, and they completely ignored the industrial revolution. And the British obviously become industrialized. They started building advanced weapons, and it was all. And it's all because of that it started the 100-year humiliation. And these weapons were transferred to Japan. And obviously, Japan is very imperialistic. And with all these advanced weapons, what did Japan do? They decided to invade Asia. They started with Korea. Then they invaded other parts of Asia. It used to be called, obviously Indonesia and Philippines and Vietnam and all these other parts of Asia. And then they went on a complete attack against China. And many of you know how many Chinese they killed. I mean, we're talking about 30, 40, 50 million. Some of the most brutal, genocidal, attacks against the Chinese people ever recorded on history. We're talking about germ warfare and human, experiments and all sorts. I cannot talk about it too much on this channel because things like this can get me banned. But you know, basically they allowed Japan to weaponize themselves. So if the Qing dynasty, if they knew Japan was weaponizing, they should have done something back then when they were stronger. So they cannot allow the same thing to happen now, guys. If they allow Japan to weaponize fully, if they allow Japan to make nuclear weapons, who do you think Japan is going to use that against? They're going to use it against China. So China cannot allow Japan, advanced weapons or to build nuclear weapons or anything like that because they will use that again against China because you know, Japan itself, it's an island. It's got no natural resources. It's got no oil, gas, minerals. It's in an earthquake zone, so there's always earthquakes in Japan. So they need land, and one of the reasons they invaded China because they needed land, and they also invaded Korea as well. And so you cannot allow these people to get weapons again. You cannot allow them to become, a superpower with massive weapons because they'll use it. Because the imperialist Japan it has never gone away. You know, they've just been in the back burner. They're pretending to be nice, but they're not. As soon as they become powerful again, they'll go back to being imperialistic Japan again. You cannot trust them. Basically, that's what I'm saying. So this is one of the reasons why China's put these sanctions on Japan because they don't want these dual use, rare earths going into military. Um, but the Japanese can still buy weapons from America and things like that. Obviously, they can do that. And if they build nuclear weapons, the Americans will probably ignore them. They'll just let them do what they want because there are, if you're an ally of America, they literally let you do whatever you want. You want to do a genocide, go ahead. You want to genocide Palestine, go ahead. We're allies. We're just gonna, we're not gonna say anything. We'll support you in the UN. Do whatever you want. This is what America does with its allies. They'll support you for whatever evil you want to do. But if you're not an ally, they'll start making up lies and stories. If you're not an ally, they'll start making up stories about genocide. It's like, oh, China's doing genocide. Even though there's no evidence whatsoever, they'll make up all these lies and stuff. So that's how America works. So this is what I'm saying, guys. You cannot allow Japan to rearm itself and remake nuclear weapons again. And China can legally attack Japan if they feel that Japan is a threat. This is a legally binding document that China, Russia, and many countries have signed. Basically, they said that, if Germany or Japan rearms itself and they are a danger, and, they could attack other countries again. It's legal as a UN member state to attack them, basically. So they do not need UN approval or international approval. China can go ahead and attack Japan if they feel that Japan is becoming a threat. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Japan will probably try and build nuclear weapons in secret. I think that there is evidence that they are doing that. and I think China will probably go to war with Japan over the next 10 years. It's not going to be America. It's not going to be any other country. And America's going to be happy because they're going to see Japan like another Ukraine. They're going to basically give Japan weapons, intelligence to attack China. The same way they're using Ukraine with American intelligence, American weapons to attack Russia, to weaken Russia. But it's not working, obviously. It's not weakening Russia. So they're going to use Japan to try and weaken China or to try and fight China. This is what Americans do best. They use other countries as proxies. And the Japanese are falling for it, guys. I mean, the Japanese people are some of the most, unintelligent people on earth. They have been children, I think they have been probably propagandized from a young age, absolutely brainwashed from a young age. Really, really heavy brainwashing, guys. The Japanese youth have been completely brainwashed. If you go to Japan, it's a nation of manga and stuff, but it's also a nation of PORN, if you know what I mean. PORN, kids and adults are basically grown up with heavy, really, really heavy, ultra hard PORN stuff. And and also they've been pretty much propagandized from a young age. Kids are not taught who dropped nuclear weapons on Japan, by the way. In schools and colleges, kids are not taught that. However, what they do, I have been to Japan and I have spoken to a few people, and I'm not joking, guys. This is absolutely the truth, and people don't believe me, but I have actually been to Japan. And I spoke to a few people about American nukes dropping on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Obviously, some of the old kind of people that were born in that era or lived through that, obviously they know who dropped those bombs. The young kids of today, they don't know who dropped those bombs on Japan. They don't know that, and everywhere on televisions and movies, even in American movies, you see Godzilla. And the reason Godzilla was created, if you guys know Godzilla, it's a big monster. Yeah, it looks like Tyrannosaurus Rex, but basically it fires nuclear weapons, right? It opens its mouth and it fires a shot of nuclear weapons at you and destroys everything, destroys cities, whatever. And so they created Godzilla to teach youngsters that it was the monsters that dropped nuclear weapons on our cities. It wasn't the Americans. And it's working, guys. Obviously you cannot fool the older generation, but the younger generation who go to school in Japan, they're not taught who dropped those bombs in Japan. They look at television and they see this big monster firing nukes at Japanese cities, and they think that the Godzilla did it. So I spoke to a few youngsters in Japan, and yeah, I couldn't believe it. Some of them believe that. Some of them don't believe that America dropped bombs on Japan. They think it was some sort of fairy tale or a myth. Others think that it was Godzilla. It was crazy, guys. Absolutely crazy. I mean, some of the Japanese are the biggest propagandized population on earth. I mean, and all this feminism stuff, and I think they kind of tested it in Japan, and it's worked. Feminism has gone completely crazy in Japan. People are not getting married. People, people are not having babies and stuff. I think it's absolutely, the Americanized society, influence has completely destroyed Japan inside and out. And yeah, it's not good, guys. It's not good. But I think China definitely will probably go to war, most likely with Japan, not America, not Philippines, not any other country. It's going to be Japan, and I think it's going to be over nuclear weapons, and that's my prediction, guys. And I think it's going to happen very soon. And if that does happen, I'm telling you, every single Chinese man in China will sign up to join the military, to join the fight. Every single man in China will do it because the Chinese never forget history, what the Japanese did to the Chinese. And They've never apologized. They've never paid any reparations to China, by the way. People that say, "Oh, they've apologized, they paid reparation." No, they've not apologized. Even the wordings, they have not apologized to China. They apologized basically um, in vague words, saying, "We apologize for all the harm that's been done to the world." In those kind of words, they basically basically a vague wording, but they never said, we apologize to China for killing 30, 40, 50 million people. We apologize for all the human, you know, agents and all the experiments that were done and all the massacres and genocide, to China. They never said anything like that, never. And they've never paid any reparations to China as well. While Germany has paying reparations to Israel, almost like 8 billion per year they're paying to Israel. Germany is, and they're still paying, and that's why Israelis are so rich because they gain reparations from Germany. Even people in Israel that basically were in Auschwitz and they've died in Israel and they're still getting paid. People, I'm still paying dead people in Israel. And this is one of the reasons why Israel is so rich and powerful. They gain reparations from Germany, they gain it from America, they gain it from Europe, other countries in Europe, like Britain, is paying them. And, Japan is not paying China anything. They've never paid anything. They've never even admitted to it. So, yeah, so China has got big, you know, if Japan tries anything, seriously, China's going to absolutely destroy Japan, and they're not going to feel bad about it. I would feel sorry for the Japanese if they even tried anything to start war with China or get involved with Taiwan issues. However, the Japanese have been known to be very, very unintelligent, so you just don't know what's going to happen. And they are absolute puppets of America. So if even though America will not join in a fight with China, they will basically use Japan to the last Japanese to fight China. And I think the Japanese, as you know, unintelligent as they are, I think they will do that. So let me know what you guys think. Before I stop the video, I want to talk about Korea. Recently, the Korean Prime Minister visited China and he proposed a high-speed rail link from Korea, South Korea, I'm talking about, going um, into China. So it's going via Qingdao. Can you see the blue line? The blue line is going to go through the Bohai Sea into Qingdao and into Beijing. And they're also proposing a northern route through North Korea. Can you see the red line? So that northern route is going to go through North Korea into Beijing as well. So they're proposing two lines. And Well, I know this because it's not really said much in the news, but in the Korean news, it's everywhere. And this account, you can see this account is actually a Korean account. It's called Korea Patriot. It's a South Korean account. So this is not this is not coming from any Chinese news agents or Western news agents. This is coming straight from Korea. And I've had a look through Korean media, they're also mentioning it as well. Lots of social media accounts in Korea also mentioning it. So this is going to be absolutely great for Korea, and it's going to be great for Korea, and it's also going to be great for China, and also Korea is going to be more integrated with China in its influence. So if if you link your country to another country with high-speed rail, obviously both few countries are going to be linked together in trade, in diplomacy, in influence. So they're going to be part of the same hemisphere, and this is great news. Japan is going to be isolated, while Korea is going to be flourishing, and North Korea as well, because that line is going to go through North Korea. So that's going to be very, very good news, and it's great news for the Koreans because this is a really good step in basically having peace between North Korea and South Korea. But it's also great news because this is going to bring a lot more trade integration between China and Korea, and and it's going to be great. And I think South Korea is probably going to start being more friendly towards China than America. And once the friendship reaches a level which is, South Korea will not need troops from America anymore. They can start getting rid of, the American troops because China can provide security to South Korea if they wanted. American troops do not need to be there. So if China says, "All right, we will we will provide you security. We will promise North Korea will not attack South Korea," you know, you are going to be safe because North Korea is still under the influence of China, and North Korea is not going to attack South Korea without Chinese go ahead. So I think this is once American troops are out, there's more of a chance of peace between North Korea and South Korea because the only obstacle of peace is America. America's the only obstacle of peace. They will never allow peace because for Americans, having American troops and bases in South Korea is actually benefits Americans more because they have American bases all over the country. They control the country. They and a lot of these troops South Koreans actually pay for as well. So the Americans are getting it for free. So so Americans need to be out of the whole Asian hemisphere. They all need to be getting out because they are the instruments of war. They are not there for peace. They're there to basically start wars. So they need to be out. Um, so let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care for now.